If you're like us, then you know that watching a good game of football is like taking a deep breath of fresh air. But what happens when that air turns into smoke and tempers flare? That's when things get interesting. We're talking about those moments when players lose their cool and the beautiful game turns into a battlefield. It's these moments that get us on the edge of our seats, our hearts pumping with adrenaline and our eyes glued to the screen. That's why we've decided to bring you the top 5 biggest football fights in history, where fists were thrown, heads were butted, and referees were chased. We're talking about those moments that made headlines around the world, caused a stir on social media, and had fans talking for weeks on end. Welcome to Football Republic, and we're about to take you on a journey through the most explosive moments in the beautiful game. So if you want to catch all the action, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of our spicy football content. But enough chit-chat, let's dive right into it. First up, we gotta talk about a fight that had everyone shook to their bones. Yes, we are talking about the good old Premier League, where football is a fierce battle and sometimes things get heated. But no match has ever gone down in history quite like the one that took place at Old Trafford between Manchester United and Arsenal back in 2003. The rivalry between these two teams was already pretty intense, but things took a turn for the worse during the 2003-04 season. Manchester United was looking to get ahead of their fiercest rival, and Arsenal was determined to keep its unbeaten record. The stage was set for what would become known as the Battle of Old Trafford. It was a match that was so intense and hotly contested, it would have put a match of Royal Rumble to shame. The rivalry between these two clubs was so fierce, like a cat and dog chasing each other's tails. And it all started when Sol Campbell was given a straight red card for elbowing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the face during their previous match back in April of the previous season. That set the tone for this next match, where the two teams were determined to prove a point. As the game got underway, there were already fouls flying left, right and centre. Referee Steve Bennett had his hands full as he tried to keep the players in check, but it was like trying to domesticate a pride of lions. Arsenal held an unbeaten record and was missing key players, while Manchester United was determined to claw back some points, so nobody was ready to concede. The match was as physical as a wrestling match, with a whopping 13 fouls by United and 18 by Arsenal. In fact, the players were so physical that they could have easily auditioned for a remake of The Hulk. Despite the number of yellow cards, the match remained goalless until the final minute. That's when things got interesting. Diego Forlán went down in the penalty area under a challenge from Arsenal defender Martin Keown, and the referee awarded a penalty. Van Nistelrooy stepped up to take the penalty, and Arsenal goalkeeper Jens Lehmann tried to put him off by doing a little dance on the goal line. It worked. The ball hit the bar and rebounded back into play. But that wasn't the end of it. Tensions boiled over at the final whistle when Van Nistelrooy was confronted by a group of Arsenal players. Keown brought his arms down hard on the Dutchman's back, while others pushed and hurled abuse. But Van Nistelrooy didn't react. Instead, he was escorted away by Manchester United captain Roy Keane. Meanwhile, other players from both sides got involved in the fracas, making it look like a scene from an action movie. In the end, the match finished as a goalless draw, but the real winners were Arsenal, who went unbeaten throughout the season, and the fans who witnessed one of the most entertaining goalless draws in Premier League history. As crazy as the Battle of Old Trafford was, the Battle of Bramall Lane might just take the cake. It all went down in 2002 when Sheffield United faced off against West Bromwich Albion. The Blades were in a comfortable mid-table position with no relegation worries, but the Baggies were fighting for their Premier League dreams. George Santos and Andy Johnson were the players to watch after a previous injury left Santos with a bone to pick with the Welsh midfielder. But things got heated quickly when United's goalkeeper, Simon Tracy, got sent off for handling the ball outside the box. Neil Warnock, United's manager, decided to make a move and replace Tracy with a striker, leaving them with no substitutions left. With Albion having the advantage, they scored their first goal through Scott Dobie, who headed in a cross from Johnson. Things then took a turn for the worse when a stray ball from Albion's Derek McInnes led to Santos being sent off for a poorly timed tackle on Johnson. This triggered a mass brawl on the pitch, and Patrick Sufo decided to headbutt McInnes, causing him to bleed. Darren Moore was so angry with United's players that he needed to be restrained by Laurent Dehaffo. The game became a real-life version of Devil May Cry, with punches thrown and players limping off the field with injuries. In the end, United was left with only 6 players, and the game had to be abandoned due to a shortage of players. The Football League awarded Albion with a 3-0 victory, while United, Warnock and several players received bans and fines from the Football Association. Warnock even faced allegations of cheating from Gary Megson, Albion's manager, which ignited a feud between the two. Sufo and Santos never played for United again, but Albion finished second and was promoted to the Premier League. The Battle of Bramall Lane will forever be remembered as one of the craziest moments in English football history. A match that proves the old saying, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how many players you have left on the field. Let's set sail from the English shores and journey to the sunny Spanish coast, where there's one epic showdown that steals the limelight. None other than the infamous Battle of Santiago Bernabeu, where the titans of Spanish football, Real Madrid and Barcelona, faced off in a game that was more heated than a pepper-eating contest. The match started off with a bang, as Brazil's Ronaldo netted a goal for Real Madrid, but it wasn't long before Barcelona's Luis Enrique responded with a goal of his own, leaving both teams hungry for a win. In the second half, the game got even more heated, as both teams battled for possession of the ball. Enter Zinedine Zidane, the Real Madrid midfield maestro known for his talent on the pitch, as well as his explosive personality. Unsurprisingly, given the nature of the match, Frenchman Zidane got into a tussle with Barcelona's Carles Puyol. It started innocently enough, with Puyol nipping at Zidane's ankles, but the Frenchman wasn't having it. He shrugged off the first 2 tackles like they were mere mosquito bites. But when Puyol finally knocked the ball out of Zidane's possession, things took a turn for the worse. Zidane allegedly aimed an elbow at Puyol, leaving the Barcelona legend writhing on the ground. That's when all hell broke loose. Zidane screamed in the face of Luis Enrique before pushing him in the face. And just like that, the match turned into a Sunday League-style scrap as players from both teams rushed in to break up the fight. But it was clear that there was no love lost between the two sides. The match ended in a 1-1 draw, but the memories of that night still linger. But one thing is for sure, when Real Madrid and Barcelona meet on the pitch, you can always expect a spicy, feisty, and downright entertaining match. Interestingly, Zidane and Luis Enrique have crossed paths multiple times, but this time not as players on the pitch. Instead, they faced off as managers of their former teams, constantly trying to outsmart each other with their tactics. And let's just say they both had their fair share of moments in the spotlight. Well. It seems like the footballers took their game to a whole new level in this next one. The Battle of Nuremberg, the infamous match played between the 2006 FIFA World Cup between Portugal and the Netherlands, is a match you can call the cards galore. This wasn't your ordinary football match, oh no. This was a brawl on the global stage. The referee, Valentin Ivanov, was handing out cards like they were candy on Halloween. The game was a real card fest, with the Russian referee Valentin Ivanov handing out 4 red cards and 16 yellow cards, setting a new record for the most cards shown at any FIFA tournament. Things started off with a bang, with Mark van Bommel getting booked in just the second minute, and Dutch defender Khalid Boulahrouz following suit shortly after for a foul that injured Cristiano Ronaldo. Poor Ronaldo was eventually subbed out of the game, tears streaming down his face. Meanwhile, Maniche also got booked for a foul on Van Bommel, but it was Portugal's Costina who got the boot first, receiving 2 yellow cards and a red card for a handball just before half-time. The second half was even more eventful, with Luis Figo headbutting Mark van Bommel during a touchline melee, and even the Portugal manager gave his approval by saying, "Jesus Christ may be able to turn the other cheek, but Luis Figo isn't Jesus Christ." Khalid Boulahrouz was sent off after fouling Figo, which led to a brawl involving several players and the Portuguese bench. Wesley Sneijder pushed Petit to the ground and Rafael van der Vaart was cautioned for dissent. But the madness didn't stop there. Deco was dismissed for delaying the restart after a free kick, and even Portugal's goalkeeper and left-back were punished. In the end, Giovanni van Bronckhorst was sent off for a second yellow card, making this the most card-happy match in FIFA World Cup history. Moving on, the Champions League is no stranger to intense competition, but the 2006-07 edition between Valencia and Inter Milan took things to a whole new level. It was like a pressure cooker in there. The first leg ended in a 2-2 draw at the San Siro, giving Valencia the advantage of their away goals. When the second leg ended in a goalless draw at the Mestalla, Valencia moved on to the quarter-finals, but the game was marred by a wild brawl that broke out after the final whistle. It all started with a rough tackle that left Valencia's Carlos Marchena flattened. Then tempers flared, and both teams got involved in the scuffle. But just when things seemed to calm down, Marchena went and kicked Inter's Nicolas Badiso, and that's when all hell broke loose. Players from both sides were throwing punches and kicks, and Valencia's unused substitute David Navarro even snuck in and broke Badiso's nose with a punch. He then sprinted away like he was in the Olympics, with Inter players chasing him and trying to trip him up. It was like a scene straight out of a cartoon. After the dust settled, both teams issued apologies, but Navarro, Marchena, Badiso, Maicon and Ivan Cordoba were all charged with gross unsporting conduct. UEFA even banned Navarro from European football for 6 months. That's gotta hurt. This wasn't the first time these two teams had a tussle either. In a group stage match during the 2004-05 season, Inter's Adriano landed a two-handed punch on Valencia's Marco Canera. Looks like these teams just can't seem to get along. And there you have it, folks, the top 5 biggest football fights in history. From headbutts to punches, these players definitely left it all on the pitch. So if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give a big thumbs up to Football Republic. Trust me, you won't regret it. Until next time, keep calm and keep bulling on.